The world of NCAA running is certainly one filled with legendary performances and student athletes that have continued on to become world class competitors in their disciplines. You really don't have to look too far to see some of the best athletes in the world that have developed themselves in the NCAA. Grant Fisher would go from Stanford to become one of the top 5K and 10K runners in the world. Cole Hawker would go from Oregon to become 1500-meter Olympic champ. Jessica Hall went from Oregon to running a staggering 350 personal best in the 1500 and getting silver at the Paris Games. And there's so many more examples of successful student athletes developing through the NCAA ranks and becoming very successful professionals. However, I think we should talk about just how fast the NCAA is getting right now and, well, how that has an effect on not just the athletes competing, but also the sport as a whole. The thing is, you don't really have to go too far back in history to really see how NCAA athletics has been near the top of the sport in terms of performances. Perhaps one of the most notable examples is the runner Henry Rono, as the Washington State athlete set 4 world records, including the 10K, 5K, 3K steeple, and 3K, in addition to numerous NCAA titles. However, one can definitely say that Rono was one of the greatest collegiate runners ever, and that was a different era in time. The world record in the 5K has progressed a lot since then, all the way to Joshua Cheptegei's astonishing world record of 12:35. Meanwhile, the NCAA record, while still insanely fast and world class, has only just dropped below 13 minutes flat, and Rono's time still stands as one of the best times ever. So there is a gap between the NCAA and best in the world in pro running that exists, and honestly, I think should exist at least to some extent. You're talking about student athletes versus seasoned professionals. However, I do think we're starting to see the NCAA beginning to close that gap with pro running, and it may have some greater effects on the sport as a whole. Now, before we talk about how fast the NCAA has gotten, there's one topic that deserves some acknowledgement, and that's the shoes. More specifically, the super shoes. NCAA running, just like essentially all areas of distance running, has seen an increase in fast performances ever since super shoes have taken over the distance running world. First, a phenomenon in road running with the Nike 4% shoe, the technology eventually found its way to the track with the Nike Dragonfly Spike. With this aid in performance and also recovering from training better and being able to train more with the impact reduction effects of the foam, runners began really producing great performances on the track, including at the NCAA level. However, I think it's also worth noting that the shoes have been around for some time now, and while they were revolutionary at first, their effect eventually leveled out, I think, to some degree. Other companies began to make competitors to the Dragonfly, making super spikes the norm at the top levels of this sport. Overall, the shoes are definitely a reason why NCAA times have gotten faster, but the rise of NCAA times also probably comes from other factors, such as the influx of high-level competition. I did a video back in the heart of cross-country season, always a very unique part of running, I may add, with the whole team racing aspect, but I did make a point in that video that the NCAA has been recruiting a lot of foreign talent. Some of this talent has been at an extremely high level, even essentially world-class professional level, and it's joining the NCAA to compete with all the best talent there. I did say that perhaps the influx of seriously fast runners joining the NCAA could push some of the top collegiate athletes to an even higher level, more competition often leads to faster times. And I wonder if some of that is really starting to play out at the NCAA level. I mean, the NCAA National Cross Country Championships has to be one of the most competitive cross country races out there. I'm not saying that a seasoned pro like Jakob Ingebrigtsen couldn't just run away from the field, but I do think you have some very high level performers out there. I mean, Hoptum Samuel has run 26:53 for the 10,000 meters on the track, or about 1,236 IAAF points, based on the latest scoring table, I believe. A good 500-page document to scroll through if you have some free time. But anyhow, Samuel faced serious competition throughout the season. In that time, ranked Samuel number 19 in the world for 2024. And Samuel still has time left to get faster in the NCAA. And it hasn't just been Samuel. There's been plenty of runners throwing down world-class performances that essentially put them at a professional level. Graham Blanks would break 13 for the 5,000 meters indoors, and that time would put him in the top 33 times for any 5K track race this calendar year. While it's not, say, sub 1240 or anything like that, it's still a time that's super impressive, but perhaps crazy enough, not even as fast as some people expected Blanks to go, as Nico Ryung's NCAA record from last year was even faster at 12:57. And we also saw an impressive performance in the women's 5K with Doris Lemgale and Hilde Moy, both running 14:52. With Lemgale breaking the previous NCAA indoor 5,000 meter record. And how about the men's 3K? I have to say, what makes these indoor track times even more impressive is how these runners are just finishing their cross-country seasons and producing these super fast times. For the men, they've run 2 10Ks at the end of their season, and a lot of training is geared more towards that. It's certainly not always easy to drop a fast 3K off that type of training, but we also saw Parker Wolf and Ethan Strand deliver two of the greatest performances we've ever seen in collegiate running, both running 7:30 for the 3,000 meters indoors. Before Ingebrigtsen broke the 3,000-meter world record with his 7:17 time, the old record of Daniel Komen of 7:20 just seemed so fast. A sub 7:30 time was considered one of the fastest times ever. And I did say how it didn't seem all that long ago that the best runners in the world in Jacob Kablimo and Jakob Ingebrigtsen were running around that time. And now 2 college runners that were in fact teammates were running 7:30. This would probably be a very competitive time at any Diamond League race if there was a 3K or something like that. So just absolutely amazing. All in all, the rise of NCAA running is truly phenomenal to witness. However, I think it brings about an important question, and that's how fast can this level of sport get? And when can it start getting, well, too fast? I believe it's certainly something to keep in mind as we head into this indoor track season. If you enjoy coverage of the sport like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next one.